Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm so glad you're here tonight, settling in wherever you are in the world. Whether you're curled up under a warm blanket as the first frost touches your windows, or perhaps listening from somewhere where winter feels like a distant memory, this video is made just for you. Tonight we're going on a gentle journey into one of nature's most remarkable mysteries, hibernation, the science of winter slumber. Before we begin, I'd love to know where in the world you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the night. Are you in a cozy bedroom in Copenhagen as snow begins to fall, or maybe listening from a warm evening in Sydney while imagining the coming winter? Let me know in the comments below. There's something wonderfully soothing about knowing this little community of curious minds is scattered across time zones, all drawn together by the same gentle fascination with how our world works. If you find these slow explorations of science helpful for unwinding after a long day, I'd be ever so grateful if you gave the video a like and perhaps tap that subscribe button. It helps more sleepy scientists like yourself find their way here, and it means I can keep creating these soft journeys through the wonders of our natural world. Now, I do hope this isn't so fascinating that it keeps you awake, though if it does, well, at least you'll drift off knowing something extraordinary about the creatures that have mastered the art of sleeping through entire seasons. So settle in, let your breathing slow, and let's explore together the remarkable world of hibernation. Picture this: it's the middle of February, and somewhere in the mountains, beneath several feet of snow, a black bear lies curled in perfect stillness. Her heart beats perhaps 8 times per minute instead of the usual 50. Her body temperature has dropped, her breathing is so shallow it's barely perceptible, and she hasn't eaten, drunk, or even moved in months. Yet she's very much alive, sustained by nothing more than the fat reserves she built up during autumn's abundance. This isn't sleep as we know it. This is hibernation, and it's one of the most extraordinary survival strategies in the natural world. But what exactly is hibernation? The word itself comes from the Latin hibernus, meaning of winter, and it describes a state of dormancy that allows animals to survive periods when food is scarce and conditions are harsh. It's nature's way of pressing pause, of finding a biological solution to the age-old problem of winter survival. Yet hibernation is far more complex and fascinating than simply falling into a very long nap. True hibernation involves dramatic changes to an animal's physiology. Heart rate plummets, sometimes to just a few beats per minute. Body temperature drops significantly, in some cases nearly matching the surrounding environment. Breathing becomes so slow and shallow that hibernating animals can appear lifeless to the casual observer. Metabolism slows to a fraction of its normal rate, allowing the animal's stored energy to last through months of inactivity. This isn't the restless tossing and turning of human sleep, where we cycle through different stages throughout the night. Hibernating animals enter a profound state of metabolic suppression that can last weeks or even months without interruption. Their bodies become living examples of biological efficiency, perfectly calibrated to survive on minimal resources while maintaining just enough activity to keep essential systems functioning. The science behind hibernation reads like something from the realm of science fiction, yet it's happening right now in forests, meadows, and burrows around the world. Animals that hibernate have evolved remarkable physiological adaptations that allow them to essentially shut down non-essential functions while keeping their vital organs alive and healthy. It's as if they've discovered the secret to biological time travel, slowing their internal clocks to such a degree that winter passes in what feels like moments. Consider the Arctic ground squirrel, perhaps the most extreme hibernator in the mammal kingdom. During its 8-month hibernation period, this remarkable creature's body temperature can drop to below freezing, yes, below freezing without causing death. Parts of its body actually freeze solid, yet specialized proteins act as biological antifreeze, preventing fatal ice crystal formation in vital organs. Its heart rate drops from over 300 beats per minute to as few as 3. It's a feat of biological engineering that makes our most advanced medical technology seem primitive by comparison. But hibernation isn't a monolithic strategy. Different animals have evolved different approaches to winter survival, creating a spectrum of dormancy, states that scientists are still working to fully understand. There's true hibernation, practiced by animals like ground squirrels, marmots, and some bat species. There's torpor, shorter periods of reduced activity and metabolism used by hummingbirds and some small mammals. And then there's what scientists call winter lethargy or carnivoran lethargy, the strategy employed by bears, which involves a less dramatic reduction in metabolism but can last for months. Each of these strategies represents millions of years of evolutionary fine-tuning, natural selection crafting biological solutions to the fundamental challenge of surviving when resources disappear and temperatures plummet. The diversity of hibernation strategies reflects the diversity of environmental challenges animals face, from the brief but intense cold of temperate winters to the prolonged darkness of Arctic conditions. What makes hibernation even more remarkable is how precisely these animals time their entry into and emergence from their dormant states. This isn't random. It's orchestrated by internal biological clocks that respond to changes in daylight, temperature, and food availability. As autumn progresses and days grow shorter, hibernating animals begin a carefully choreographed preparation phase that's as important as hibernation itself. During this pre-hibernation period, animals undergo dramatic behavioral and physiological changes. They enter a state called hyperphagia, eating voraciously to build up the fat reserves that will sustain them through winter. A bear might gain several pounds per day during this phase, increasing its body weight by as much as 30%. Ground squirrels stuff their cheeks with seeds and nuts, creating underground pantries, while also building up internal fat stores. Their bodies literally transform, becoming living batteries charged with the energy needed to power months of dormancy. The preparation doesn't stop with food storage. Animals seek out or create the perfect hibernation sites, dens, burrows, or roosts that provide insulation from the cold and protection from predators. Bears might excavate dens under tree roots or in hillsides, lining them with leaves and grass for insulation. Ground squirrels dig elaborate burrow systems with multiple chambers, some for food storage, others specifically designed for hibernation. The location and construction of these winter retreats can mean the difference between successfully surviving winter and perishing from cold or predation. Perhaps most fascinating of all is how these animals know when it's time to begin hibernation. They don't check weather forecasts or calendar dates. Instead, they rely on internal biological mechanisms that have been calibrated over millions of years to respond to environmental cues. Decreasing daylight triggers hormonal changes that initiate the hibernation process. Dropping temperatures provide additional signals. The availability of food resources offers final confirmation that winter is approaching and it's time to retreat. This biological timing system is so precise that scientists can often predict within days when certain hibernating animals will enter dormancy. It's a masterpiece of natural engineering, an internal clock that's more accurate than many human-made timepieces. The fact that animals can essentially shut themselves down and then wake up at precisely the right moment in spring, when conditions are favorable for emergence, speaks to the sophistication of these evolved systems. But hibernation raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness and life itself. What is the experience of a hibernating animal? Are they dreaming during those long months of dormancy? Do they maintain any awareness of their surroundings? Or do they exist in a state that's closer to suspended animation? These questions touch on some of the deepest mysteries in neuroscience and consciousness studies. Recent research suggests that hibernating animals might experience something akin to a very slow, extended version of the REM sleep stage in humans, characterized by periodic brief arousals and potential dreamlike activity. Brain scans of hibernating ground squirrels show patterns of neural activity that suggest some level of ongoing cognitive processing, though at a dramatically reduced level. It's as if their minds are running on the lowest possible power setting while still maintaining essential functions. The implications of understanding hibernation extend far beyond mere biological curiosity. Medical researchers are intensely interested in hibernation mechanisms because they could potentially be applied to human medicine. Imagine being able to slow human metabolism during long surgeries, reducing the risk of tissue damage. Consider the possibilities for space travel if humans could enter hibernation-like states for journeys to distant planets. Even more immediate applications might include treating stroke victims or cardiac arrest patients by temporarily slowing their metabolism to prevent brain damage. Some animals have already provided crucial insights for human medicine. The Arctic ground squirrel's ability to survive with a body temperature below freezing has informed research into therapeutic hypothermia, a medical technique used to protect the brain and other organs during certain procedures. Understanding how hibernating animals prevent muscle atrophy despite months of inactivity could help treat bedridden patients or astronauts experiencing muscle loss in zero gravity. The study of hibernation also reveals something profound about the flexibility of life itself. These animals demonstrate that the seemingly fixed parameters of existence, body temperature, heart rate, metabolic rate, are far more malleable than we might assume. Life, it seems, is capable of extraordinary adaptation when faced with environmental challenges. The fact that a mammal can essentially transform itself into a cold, barely breathing statue and then return to full activity months later challenges our basic assumptions about what it means to be alive. As we delve deeper into the world of hibernation, we begin to see it not just as a survival strategy, but as a window into the remarkable plasticity of biological systems. It's a testament to the power of evolution to craft solutions to seemingly impossible problems. These animals have essentially solved the puzzle of how to pause life without ending it, how to exist in a state between active living and death. The more we learn about hibernation, the more we realize how much we still don't know. Each hibernating species seems to have its own unique adaptations, its own solutions to the challenges of winter survival. From the tiny hummingbird that enters torpor each night to conserve energy, to the massive brown bear that slumbers through entire seasons, hibernation takes countless forms across the animal kingdom. And so tonight, as we begin this exploration of winter slumber, we find ourselves at the threshold of one of nature's most elegant solutions to survival. In the coming parts of our journey, we'll meet some of hibernation's most remarkable practitioners, explore the intricate biological mechanisms that make it possible, and discover how this ancient survival strategy continues to inspire modern science and medicine. For now, though, let yourself imagine the profound stillness of a hibernating animal curled safely in its den while winter rages outside. There's something deeply peaceful about this image, isn't there? The complete surrender to rest, the trust in biological systems honed by millions of years of evolution, the quiet patience of waiting for spring's return. Perhaps there's something we humans can learn from these masters of seasonal slumber, these creatures who have turned the art of rest into the ultimate survival strategy. Let's journey now into the world of the true masters of hibernation, the animals that have perfected this remarkable art over millions of years. Each species has written its own unique chapter in the great book of winter survival, and their stories are as diverse as they are extraordinary. Consider the humble woodchuck, or groundhog as many know it, emerging briefly each February to supposedly predict the length of winter. But long before this creature became a fixture of folklore, it was perfecting one of nature's most impressive hibernation strategies. A woodchuck's hibernation is so complete, so profound, that its body temperature drops from a warm 98 degrees Fahrenheit to just above freezing. Its heart, which normally beats 80 times per minute during active months, slows to a mere 4 beats per minute. Breathing becomes so infrequent that there might be 6 minutes between breaths. In this state, a woodchuck uses only about 2% of the energy it would normally consume while awake. What's particularly fascinating is that woodchucks don't simply fall into hibernation like tumbling into a deep well. They ease into it gradually over several days, their body systems slowly powering down in a carefully orchestrated biological symphony. Their kidneys nearly shut down, their digestive system goes completely offline, and even their immune system shifts into a minimal maintenance mode. It's as if every non-essential system receives a gentle memo: please suspend operations until further notice. But perhaps no hibernator is quite as remarkable as the Arctic ground squirrel we touched on earlier. These small mammals, weighing no more than a bag of sugar, accomplish feats that seem to defy the basic laws of biology. During their 8-month slumber, they don't just approach freezing temperatures, they embrace them. Parts of their bodies actually freeze solid, yet they survive because they've evolved specialized proteins that act like biological antifreeze, preventing ice crystals from forming in ways that would damage their cells. Even more extraordinary, these tiny creatures periodically warm themselves up during hibernation, raising their body temperature back to normal for a few hours every few weeks, before settling back into their frozen state. Scientists call these arousal episodes, and they remain one of hibernation's greatest mysteries. Why would an animal expend precious energy to wake up, only to return to dormancy? Some researchers believe these brief warm-ups are necessary to perform essential cellular maintenance, to clear metabolic waste products that accumulate even during the slowest metabolism, or perhaps to allow for brief periods of REM sleep that might be necessary for brain health. These arousal episodes are metabolically expensive, using up to 60% of the energy an Arctic ground squirrel will consume during its entire hibernation period. It's like briefly turning on all the lights in a house during a power outage, using up precious battery reserves for some essential but mysterious purpose. The fact that these animals consistently perform these energy-intensive warm-ups suggests they serve a critical biological function, even if we don't fully understand what that function might be. Moving from the smallest hibernators to some of the largest, we encounter the magnificent world of bear hibernation, though scientists prefer the term torpor when discussing these forest giants. Bears don't experience the dramatic temperature drops or heart rate reductions of true hibernators, but what they accomplish is perhaps even more impressive in its own way. A pregnant black bear will enter her den in late fall and not emerge until spring, giving birth to cubs during her winter slumber and nursing them without ever eating, drinking, or even urinating for months on end. The physiological challenges this presents are staggering. How does a mammal survive for 5 to 7 months without water? How does a mother produce milk for growing cubs, while her own body is living entirely off stored fat? Bears have evolved remarkable solutions to these problems. Their kidneys essentially shut down urine production, and their bodies recycle urea back into protein rather than allowing it to build up to toxic levels. Their bones, rather than weakening from months of inactivity, actually maintain their strength through mechanisms we're only beginning to understand. It's as if bears have solved biological problems that would be fatal to almost any other mammal. The efficiency of bear hibernation is breathtaking. A hibernating bear's metabolic rate drops by about 75%. Yet unlike true hibernators, bears can wake up relatively quickly if disturbed. This gives them the best of both worlds: the energy savings of deep dormancy with the ability to respond to threats or changing conditions. Mother bears with cubs are particularly light sleepers, able to rouse themselves to tend to their young while maintaining their overall state of winter lethargy. But hibernation isn't limited to ground-dwelling mammals. Some of the most remarkable hibernators take to the air during their active months. Many bat species are accomplished hibernators, and their strategies vary dramatically depending on their environment and lifestyle. Little brown bats, common across much of North America, hibernate in caves, mines, or other underground spaces where temperatures remain relatively stable throughout winter. What makes bat hibernation particularly fascinating is how these flying mammals manage to survive on such tiny energy reserves. A little brown bat weighs less than half an ounce, yet it must store enough fat to fuel its metabolism for 6 months or more. During hibernation, a bat's heart rate drops from over 1,000 beats per minute to as few as 20. Its body temperature plummets to match the cool cave environment, sometimes hovering just a few degrees above freezing. In this state, a bat might take only one breath every hour, hanging motionless from the cave ceiling like a small, furry ornament. The precision required for successful bat hibernation is extraordinary. The temperature in their hibernation roosts must remain within a fairly narrow range too warm, and they'll burn through their fat reserves too quickly, too cold, and they risk freezing. This is why cave-dwelling bats are so vulnerable to human disturbance during winter months. Even the brief warming caused by visitors' body heat can trigger costly arousal episodes, forcing bats to burn precious energy reserves they can't afford to lose. Some bats have evolved even more specialized hibernation strategies. The common poorwill, technically a bird but one that behaves remarkably like a hibernating mammal, can enter a state of torpor so deep that indigenous peoples of the American Southwest have a word for it that translates to the sleeping one. These birds can remain in this death-like state for weeks or even months, their body temperature dropping to match their surroundings, their breathing becoming virtually undetectable. The diversity of hibernation strategies extends to some truly unexpected animals. Certain species of hummingbirds, those tiny jeweled dynamos that seem to embody pure energy, actually enter a state called torpor each night. While not true hibernation, this nightly shutdown allows them to survive the metabolic demands of their high-energy lifestyle. A hummingbird's heart normally beats over 1,200 times per minute, but during torpor, it slows to around 50 beats per minute. Their body temperature drops dramatically, and they become so still they appear lifeless until the morning sun triggers their revival. Even some reptiles and amphibians have their own versions of winter dormancy. Wood frogs accomplish something that seems impossible. They freeze solid and survive. These remarkable amphibians can withstand having up to 65% of their body water turned to ice. Their hearts stop beating, their breathing ceases, and they become frozen sculptures of themselves. Yet when spring arrives and temperatures rise, they thaw out and resume their lives as if nothing happened. They accomplish this through a combination of glucose that acts as antifreeze and specialized proteins that control ice formation, ensuring that ice crystals form in spaces between cells rather than inside them where they could cause fatal damage. The painted turtle, found in ponds and lakes across much of North America, survives winter by essentially shutting down its need for oxygen. These turtles bury themselves in pond mud and switch to a form of metabolism that doesn't require breathing. They can survive for months without taking a single breath, their bodies producing energy through anaerobic processes that would be toxic to most other animals. It's a biological strategy so unusual that scientists are still working to fully understand how these turtles avoid the toxic buildup of waste products that would normally result from oxygen-free metabolism. Each of these hibernation stories reveals something profound about the flexibility of life, the countless ways evolution has found to solve the fundamental problem of survival in harsh conditions. These animals haven't just found ways to endure winter. They've found ways to essentially pause their lives, to exist in a state between active living and death, then return to full vitality when conditions improve. What's particularly remarkable is how each species has calibrated its hibernation strategy to match its specific ecological niche and environmental challenges. The Arctic ground squirrel's extreme strategy matches its extreme environment, while the bear's less dramatic but longer-lasting approach suits its larger size and different metabolic needs. The bat's precision timing matches the ephemeral nature of its insect prey, while the wood frog's freeze tolerance reflects the harsh reality of life in northern climates. where simply avoiding freezing isn't always possible. These diverse strategies also reveal the deep evolutionary history of hibernation. Scientists believe that the capacity for reducing metabolic rate and entering dormant states is ancient, possibly dating back hundreds of millions of years. The various forms we see today, from the brief torpor of hummingbirds to the months-long slumber of ground squirrels, represent different evolutionary experiments in the same basic theme: how to survive when the world becomes too harsh for normal activity. The study of these different hibernation strategies has revealed that the line between hibernation and other forms of dormancy is far blurrier than scientists once believed. Rather than distinct categories, we see a continuum of strategies for reducing energy expenditure and surviving difficult periods. This spectrum includes everything from the daily torpor of some small mammals to the months-long hibernation of ground squirrels, each representing a different solution to the same fundamental challenge. Understanding this diversity has practical implications for how we protect hibernating animals and their habitats. Cave-dwelling bats require stable, underground environments free from human disturbance. Ground squirrels need undisturbed areas where they can dig their elaborate burrow systems. Bears need large territories with sufficient food resources for their pre-hibernation feeding frenzies and secure denning sites. Each species' unique hibernation strategy creates specific conservation needs that must be understood and protected. The remarkable diversity of hibernation strategies also continues to inspire human innovation and research. Each species offers unique insights into how biological systems can be modified and controlled. The wood frog's freeze tolerance has implications for organ preservation in medicine. The bear's ability to maintain bone strength during months of inactivity could help treat osteoporosis. The Arctic ground squirrel's ability to survive with a frozen body could revolutionize hypothermic medical procedures. As we explore these various masters of hibernation, we begin to see hibernation not as a single phenomenon but as a vast family of related survival strategies. Each animal has written its own chapter in the great encyclopedia of winter survival, and each chapter offers unique insights into the remarkable plasticity of life itself. From the frozen ground squirrel to the slumbering bear, from the suspended hummingbird to the ice-locked frog, these creatures demonstrate that life has found not just one way to pause itself, but countless ways, each as elegant and effective as the next. The diversity of these strategies reminds us that nature rarely settles for a single solution to any problem. Instead, it explores every possible variation, every potential adaptation, creating a rich tapestry of survival strategies that reflects the incredible creativity of evolutionary processes. In the world of hibernation, one size definitely does not fit all, and that diversity is perhaps the most beautiful aspect of this remarkable phenomenon. As we settle deeper into our exploration of hibernation, let's turn our attention to the intricate biological machinery that makes this extraordinary phenomenon possible. Because beneath the peaceful exterior of a slumbering bear or the frozen stillness of an Arctic ground squirrel lies one of the most sophisticated biological engineering projects that evolution has ever accomplished. The transformation that occurs when an animal enters hibernation is nothing short of miraculous. It's as if every cell in the creature's body receives a carefully orchestrated set of instructions. Slow down, conserve energy, maintain only the most essential functions, and do it all while keeping the organism alive and healthy for months on end. This isn't just a matter of falling asleep very deeply. It's a complete reorganization of how life itself operates at the most fundamental level. Let's begin with the heart, that tireless muscle that beats billions of times over the course of a lifetime. In an active animal, the heart maintains a steady rhythm, pumping blood to deliver oxygen and nutrients to every corner of the body. But as hibernation approaches, something remarkable happens. The heart doesn't simply slow down, it transforms its entire operating system. In some hibernating mammals, the heart rate can drop to less than 5% of its normal pace. The cardiac muscle itself becomes more efficient, squeezing more effectively with each beat to ensure that even at this dramatically reduced pace, vital organs continue to receive the blood flow they need to survive. The heart's electrical system, the network of specialized cells that coordinate each heartbeat, also undergoes profound changes. The normal rapid-fire signals that drive a wakeful heart are replaced by long, slow pulses that space out the heartbeats across minutes rather than seconds. It's like switching from a high-frequency radio station to a low-frequency transmission that carries across vast distances with minimal energy expenditure. But the cardiovascular changes extend beyond the heart itself. Blood vessels throughout the body constrict in a precisely controlled manner, redirecting the limited blood flow to only the most critical organs: the brain, heart, and lungs. Less vital systems, the digestive tract, kidneys, and even much of the skeletal muscle, receive dramatically reduced blood flow. It's a form of biological triage, ensuring that limited resources are allocated where they're needed most for survival. The composition of the blood itself changes during hibernation. Red blood cell production slows dramatically since the reduced metabolic activity means less oxygen is needed throughout the body. The blood becomes more viscous, almost syrupy, which might seem problematic but actually serves important functions. This thicker blood moves more slowly through the vessels, allowing for more complete oxygen extraction by the tissues it does reach. It's another example of how hibernating animals turn apparent disadvantages into survival advantages. Temperature regulation during hibernation presents one of the most fascinating biological puzzles. Maintaining body temperature is one of the most energy-expensive processes for warm-blooded animals, yet hibernators must find ways to either maintain reduced temperatures or, in some extreme cases, allow their bodies to cool to near freezing, while avoiding the cellular damage that would normally result from such dramatic temperature changes. The hypothalamus, often called the body's thermostat, undergoes dramatic reprogramming during hibernation. Instead of maintaining the normal mammalian body temperature of around 98 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, it resets its target temperature much lower, sometimes to just a few degrees above the ambient temperature. This isn't a malfunction, it's a carefully controlled process that allows the animal to save enormous amounts of energy that would otherwise be spent on heat production. This temperature reduction is accomplished through several mechanisms. Brown fat, a special type of fatty tissue that's particularly rich in mitochondria, can be either activated to produce heat when needed, or essentially shut down to allow cooling. The animal's metabolism of regular fat stores also changes, shifting from heat-producing processes to more efficient energy storage and utilization pathways. Some hibernators take temperature regulation to even more extreme lengths. The Arctic ground squirrels we discussed earlier actually allow parts of their bodies to freeze while maintaining just enough metabolic activity in their core organs to sustain life. This requires specialized proteins that act as biological antifreeze, preventing the formation of ice crystals that would rupture cell membranes. These cryoprotectant proteins are so effective that they're now being studied for potential use in organ preservation for transplant surgeries. The respiratory system undergoes equally dramatic changes during hibernation. Breathing, which occurs automatically and continuously in active animals, becomes so infrequent in hibernators that early researchers sometimes mistook hibernating animals for dead specimens. In some species, there might be several minutes between breaths, yet the animal's blood oxygen levels remain adequate for survival. This is possible because of changes in how oxygen is processed and utilized at the cellular level. The animal's oxygen consumption drops dramatically as metabolic processes slow down. At the same time, the efficiency of oxygen extraction from each breath increases. The lungs may actually become more effective at transferring oxygen to the blood, while the blood becomes more efficient at delivering that oxygen to the tissues that need it most. Carbon dioxide, the waste product of cellular respiration, also accumulates more slowly during hibernation due to the reduced metabolic rate. The body's pH balance, normally tightly regulated, shifts to accommodate these changes without causing the acidosis that would be fatal in a normally active animal. It's as if the entire respiratory and acid-base balance system has been recalibrated for an entirely different operating mode. Perhaps nowhere are the changes more dramatic than in the brain, that most energy-hungry of organs. The human brain, for comparison, uses about 20% of our total energy expenditure, despite representing only about 2% of our body weight. For hibernating animals to achieve their remarkable energy savings, the brain must dramatically reduce its activity while still maintaining the essential functions needed to keep the animal alive and to eventually wake up when hibernation ends. During hibernation, brainwave patterns change dramatically. The normal cycles of sleep and wakefulness disappear, replaced by patterns that resemble neither normal sleep nor normal wakefulness. Some researchers describe the hibernating brain as existing in a completely unique state of consciousness, one that doesn't occur in non-hibernating animals under any circumstances. Certain areas of the brain become much less active during hibernation. The regions responsible for complex behaviors, learning, and memory processing essentially go offline. Meanwhile, the brainstem regions that control basic life functions, breathing, heart rate, and temperature regulation continue to operate, though at much reduced levels of activity. It's as if the brain has shifted from running a complex modern city to maintaining just the most essential infrastructure needed to keep the lights on. Remarkably, despite months of reduced brain activity, hibernating animals don't seem to suffer any permanent cognitive impairment. When they emerge from hibernation, their learning abilities, memory, and behavioral repertoires appear intact. This suggests that the brain has mechanisms for protecting itself during long periods of reduced activity, possibly through the production of protective proteins or through cellular maintenance processes that occur during those mysterious periodic arousals we discussed earlier. The digestive system essentially shuts down completely during hibernation. The stomach stops producing acid, the intestines cease their rhythmic contractions, and the production of digestive enzymes drops to near zero. This makes sense given that hibernating animals don't eat for months, but it also means that the entire digestive tract must somehow maintain its structural integrity while essentially unused. The liver, normally one of the body's most metabolically active organs, shifts into an entirely different operating mode. Instead of processing nutrients from food, it becomes focused on managing the animal's fat reserves, converting stored triglycerides into the ketones and glucose needed to fuel the reduced metabolism. The liver also takes on enhanced roles in managing waste products that accumulate more slowly but still need to be processed during hibernation. Kidney function presents one of the most remarkable adaptations in hibernating animals. These organs, which normally filter the blood continuously and produce urine to eliminate waste products, dramatically reduce their activity during hibernation. In some species, urine production nearly stops entirely. Instead, the kidneys recycle urea and other nitrogen-containing waste products, converting them back into useful proteins rather than eliminating them. This recycling process is so efficient that some hibernating animals actually emerge from their winter sleep with increased muscle mass despite months of inactivity. The immune system during hibernation presents fascinating paradoxes. On one hand, the reduced metabolic activity means that the energy-expensive processes of immune surveillance and response are scaled back dramatically. Yet hibernating animals don't seem to be more susceptible to infections or diseases during their dormant period. This suggests that hibernation may actually provide some protective benefits, possibly by reducing exposure to pathogens or by allowing the immune system to focus on maintenance and repair rather than active defense. Some research suggests that hibernation may actually enhance certain aspects of immune function. The periodic arousal episodes that punctuate hibernation might serve partly as opportunities for immune system maintenance, allowing the animal to clear any accumulated pathogens or cellular damage before returning to dormancy. This could explain why these energetically expensive warm-ups have been preserved by evolution despite their apparent cost. The endocrine system, which regulates hormone production and distribution throughout the body, undergoes complex changes during hibernation. Stress hormones like cortisol, which would normally be elevated during times of food scarcity and environmental hardship, are carefully regulated to avoid the negative effects of chronic stress. Growth hormones are reduced since growth is not a priority during hibernation. Reproductive hormones are typically suppressed, which makes sense given that reproduction would be impossible during this period of dormancy. Insulin sensitivity changes dramatically during hibernation. Despite the fact that hibernating animals are essentially fasting for months, they don't develop the kind of metabolic dysfunction that would be expected from such prolonged food deprivation. Instead, their bodies become incredibly efficient at managing glucose and fat metabolism, switching between energy sources as needed while maintaining stable blood sugar levels. The cellular changes that occur during hibernation are perhaps the most fundamental of all. At the most basic level of organization, individual cells throughout the body shift their metabolism from the high-energy, growth-oriented processes of active life to maintenance-focused, energy-conserving survival modes. Cellular respiration slows dramatically, with mitochondria, the powerhouses of cells, reducing their activity to just a fraction of normal levels. Protein synthesis, the process by which cells build the molecular machinery needed for growth and repair, slows dramatically but doesn't stop entirely. This careful balance allows cells to maintain their essential structures while avoiding the energy expenditure associated with growth and extensive repair processes. Some proteins that are particularly important for hibernation survival are actually produced at higher levels than normal, showing that hibernation involves active metabolic reprogramming rather than simple shutdown. The process of cellular waste disposal also changes during hibernation. Cells produce specialized proteins that help break down and recycle damaged cellular components, essentially performing spring cleaning during the winter months. This may be one reason why hibernating animals can survive such long periods of reduced activity without suffering the kind of cellular damage that would be expected from prolonged stress. DNA repair mechanisms remain active during hibernation, ensuring that the genetic material in each cell remains intact despite the long period of reduced activity. Some hibernating species actually show enhanced DNA repair capabilities, possibly as an adaptation to protect against the accumulation of genetic damage during the months of dormancy. The remarkable orchestration of all these biological changes raises profound questions about how such complex adaptations evolved and how they're coordinated across all the body's systems. Hibernation isn't just the sum of its parts. It's an integrated biological strategy that requires precise timing and coordination across every level of organization, from individual cells to organ systems to the whole organism. The genetic basis of hibernation is an active area of research, with scientists working to identify the specific genes and regulatory networks that control the transition into and out of hibernation. Some of these genes appear to be ancient, possibly dating back hundreds of millions of years to early vertebrate evolution. Others seem to be more recent evolutionary innovations, fine-tuned to specific environments and lifestyles. Understanding these mechanisms has implications far beyond satisfying scientific curiosity. The biological strategies that allow hibernating animals to survive months without food, water, or normal activity could potentially be applied to human medicine in revolutionary ways. Researchers are exploring how hibernation-like states might be induced in humans for medical procedures, space travel, or treatment of various diseases. The precision and elegance of hibernation biology remind us that evolution is perhaps the most talented engineer of all, crafting solutions to impossible problems through the patient accumulation of tiny improvements over vast spans of time. Each hibernating animal represents millions of years of biological refinement, resulting in survival strategies so sophisticated that they still challenge our understanding of what life can accomplish. As we contemplate these remarkable biological mechanisms, there's something deeply peaceful about imagining the quiet efficiency of a hibernating animal's physiology. Every system working in perfect harmony, every process calibrated for maximum efficiency, every cell contributing to the singular goal of survival through the harsh months ahead. It's a masterpiece of biological engineering, playing out silently in dens and burrows around the world, a testament to life's incredible capacity for adaptation and endurance. The intricate biological symphony of hibernation doesn't happen in isolation. It's orchestrated by what we might think of as nature's most sophisticated timing system, an internal clock so precise that it makes our most advanced chronometers seem rather quaint by comparison. This biological timekeeper doesn't rely on gears or crystals or atomic vibrations. Instead, it's woven into the very fabric of life itself, encoded in genes and expressed through hormones, responding to the subtle changes in our world that signal the turning of seasons. At the heart of this timing system lies the circadian clock, that ancient biological rhythm that governs so much of life on Earth. But during hibernation, this familiar daily cycle undergoes a remarkable transformation. The normal 24-hour rhythm that guides sleeping and waking, eating and fasting, activity and rest, stretches and morphs into something entirely different. It's as if time itself has been recalibrated, with biological processes that normally cycle daily now cycling over weeks or months. The master timekeeper in mammalian brains is a tiny cluster of cells called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, tucked away in the hypothalamus like a biological Swiss watchmaker's workshop. During normal life, this remarkable structure coordinates thousands of biological processes, ensuring that body temperature rises and falls at appropriate times, that hormone levels fluctuate in predictable patterns, and that we feel alert during the day and sleepy at night. But as hibernation approaches, this master clock begins to tick to a very different rhythm. Light, that most fundamental Zeitgeber or time giver, plays a crucial role in preparing animals for hibernation. As autumn progresses and daylight hours shrink, specialized cells in the eyes detect these changes and relay the information to the brain's timing centers. It's not just the total amount of light that matters, but the precise timing of dawn and dusk, the angle of the sun, and even the quality of light as it changes from the bright, blue-rich illumination of summer to the softer, redder tones of autumn. These light cues trigger cascades of hormonal changes that prepare the body for its long winter sleep. Melatonin, often called the hormone of darkness, begins to be produced earlier in the day and in greater quantities. This increase in melatonin doesn't just make animals sleepy, it fundamentally reprograms their physiology, shifting metabolism, immune function, and countless other processes toward hibernation mode. But light isn't the only environmental cue that hibernating animals rely upon. Temperature plays an equally important role, though not always in the ways you might expect. While dropping temperatures certainly signal the approach of winter, hibernating animals are incredibly sensitive to subtle temperature changes that occur weeks or even months before the harsh cold arrives. The gradual cooling of soil temperatures, the first frost on vegetation, even the changing temperature patterns between day and night, all provide information that helps fine-tune the timing of hibernation entry. Food availability adds another layer to this environmental sensing system. As autumn progresses and food becomes scarcer or lower in quality, this information is integrated with light and temperature cues to provide a comprehensive picture of environmental conditions. Some animals are so sensitive to these combined signals that they can predict winter conditions with remarkable accuracy, beginning their hibernation preparations weeks before the first snow falls. The hormonal orchestra that coordinates hibernation is breathtakingly complex. Insulin, cortisol, thyroid hormones, growth hormones, and dozens of others all change their patterns of production and activity as hibernation approaches. These hormonal shifts don't happen randomly, they're precisely choreographed to occur in the right sequence, at the right intensity, and at the right times to successfully transition the animal from active life to dormant survival. Leptin, a hormone produced by fat cells, plays a particularly fascinating role in hibernation timing. During the pre-hibernation feeding period, as animals accumulate the fat reserves they'll need to survive winter, leptin levels rise dramatically. But rather than suppressing appetite as it normally would, leptin's effects are essentially reversed during hibernation preparation. This hormonal flip allows animals to continue eating voraciously, even as their fat stores grow, overriding the normal satiety signals that would prevent such dramatic weight gain. The transition into hibernation isn't like flipping a switch, it's more like dimming the lights very slowly until the room is nearly dark. This gradual entry process can take days or even weeks, with body temperature, heart rate, and metabolic rate all declining in carefully coordinated steps. Too rapid a transition could be fatal, shocking the body's systems beyond their ability to adapt. Instead, hibernating animals ease into dormancy like settling into a warm bath, allowing each system time to adjust to its new operating parameters. During this transition period, animals often exhibit what researchers call test drops, brief periods where their body temperature and metabolic rate drop significantly, only to return to near normal levels. It's as if the animal is testing its hibernation systems, making sure everything is working properly before committing to the full transformation. These test drops serve as dress rehearsals for the main event, allowing the animal to identify and correct any problems before it's too late to turn back. The choice of hibernation site plays a crucial role in successful timing as well. Animals don't just seek out any shelter, they look for locations with very specific thermal properties. The ideal hibernation site maintains a relatively stable temperature throughout winter, neither too warm nor too cold. Too warm, and the animal will burn through its fat reserves too quickly. Too cold, and it risks freezing or being forced to expend precious energy on heat production. Many hibernating animals display remarkable engineering skills in preparing their winter retreats. Ground squirrels excavate burrows with multiple chambers, each designed for specific purposes. The hibernation chamber itself is often positioned at just the right depth to take advantage of the Earth's natural insulation while avoiding areas that might flood or freeze. These burrows may include separate storage chambers for food, escape tunnels for emergencies, and even crude ventilation systems to ensure adequate air circulation during the long months ahead. Bears demonstrate perhaps the most impressive den construction behaviors, carefully selecting sites with the right combination of insulation, drainage, and security. A bear's den might be excavated under the root system of a large tree, providing natural structural support and camouflage. The entrance is typically small enough to retain heat, but large enough for the bear to enter and exit comfortably. Inside, the den is lined with leaves, grass, and other insulating materials to create a cozy microenvironment that will remain relatively stable throughout winter. The thermal properties of these hibernation sites are so important that animals will often abandon otherwise suitable locations if the temperature characteristics aren't quite right. Researchers have found that successful hibernation sites maintain temperatures within surprisingly narrow ranges, and animals seem to possess an almost uncanny ability to assess and select locations with the right thermal properties. Humidity levels in hibernation sites matter too. Too dry, and the animal risks dangerous dehydration during its months-long fast. Too humid, and fungal growth or other problems might develop. The most successful hibernation sites maintain moderate humidity levels that prevent both desiccation and excessive moisture accumulation. Air circulation presents another engineering challenge for hibernating animals. While they need protection from wind and weather, they also require adequate ventilation to prevent the buildup of carbon dioxide or other gases that could become problematic over months of occupation. Many hibernation burrows include ingenious natural ventilation systems that allow for air exchange without significant heat loss. The social aspects of hibernation timing add yet another layer of complexity to this already intricate process. Some species hibernate alone, while others gather in groups, and the timing of these social hibernation aggregations must be precisely coordinated. Bats, for example, often hibernate in large colonies where the timing of entry and exit from hibernation can affect the survival chances of the entire group. Group hibernation offers certain advantages. Shared body heat can help maintain optimal temperatures, and the collective thermal mass of many animals can provide stability against temperature fluctuations. But it also requires remarkable coordination. If individuals enter hibernation at different times, the temperature dynamics of the hibernation site can be disrupted. Too early, and an animal might not have adequate fat reserves. Too late, and it might miss the optimal window for successful hibernation entry. Some hibernating species exhibit what researchers call social thermoregulation, where the positioning of individuals within a group hibernation site is carefully arranged to optimize heat conservation and sharing. Smaller or younger animals might be positioned in the center of the group where temperatures are most stable, while larger individuals take positions toward the edges where they can better tolerate temperature fluctuations. The synchronization of hibernation timing across populations is particularly remarkable when you consider that it occurs without any obvious communication between individuals. Animals separated by miles of territory somehow coordinate their hibernation timing with remarkable precision. This suggests that they're all responding to the same environmental cues, and that their internal biological clocks are calibrated to these external signals with extraordinary accuracy. Weather patterns can significantly influence hibernation timing, and hibernating animals have evolved strategies to cope with the unpredictability of seasonal weather. Unusually warm autumns might delay hibernation entry, while early cold snaps could trigger premature hibernation in animals that haven't yet accumulated adequate fat reserves. These timing mismatches can be fatal, highlighting just how precisely calibrated the hibernation timing system normally is. Climate change has begun to affect hibernation timing in some species, creating mismatches between traditional hibernation schedules and changing environmental conditions. Some animals are entering hibernation later than their ancestors did, while others are emerging earlier in spring. These shifts can disrupt food availability, breeding cycles, and other critical life processes, demonstrating just how finely tuned these ancient timing systems are to historical climate patterns. The process of emerging from hibernation is just as precisely timed as the entry process, though it involves very different environmental cues and biological mechanisms. While entry into hibernation is primarily triggered by declining day length and falling temperatures, emergence is often tied to more subtle environmental signals that indicate winter is truly ending and spring is approaching. Soil temperature changes, the chemistry of groundwater, and even subtle changes in barometric pressure can all serve as signals that trigger hibernation termination. These cues must be reliable indicators that spring has truly arrived, not just temporary warm spells that might be followed by more severe winter weather. Animals that emerge too early risk starvation or freezing if winter conditions return. The timing of hibernation emergence is particularly critical for animals that must coordinate their active period with food availability or breeding opportunities. Bears, for example, often emerge from hibernation just as early spring vegetation is beginning to grow, providing them with their first fresh food in months. The timing must be precise too early, and there's nothing to eat; too late, and they've missed optimal foraging opportunities. For species that breed shortly after emerging from hibernation, the timing becomes even more critical. These animals must emerge with enough energy reserves to successfully mate and begin raising offspring, while also timing their emergence to coincide with optimal breeding conditions and food availability for their young. The remarkable precision of hibernation timing reminds us that these animals are not simply shutting down for winter, they're engaging in one of the most sophisticated survival strategies that evolution has ever devised. Every aspect of hibernation, from the initial preparation through the long months of dormancy to the carefully timed emergence, reflects millions of years of fine-tuning and optimization. As we contemplate this extraordinary timing system, there's something deeply comforting about the reliability and precision of these natural cycles. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, hibernating animals demonstrate that there are still rhythms and patterns we can depend upon, ancient biological clocks that continue to tick with the same precision they've maintained for millennia. The study of hibernation timing continues to yield insights that extend far beyond basic biology. Understanding how animals coordinate complex biological processes over extended time periods has implications for human medicine, agriculture, and even space exploration. The biological timing mechanisms that govern hibernation might one day help us develop better treatments for sleep disorders, seasonal depression, or the physiological challenges of long-distance space travel. There's also something philosophically profound about hibernation timing that speaks to our human experience of time and seasons. These animals remind us that time isn't always linear or constant, that there are natural rhythms to life that involve periods of activity and rest, engagement and withdrawal, preparation and recovery. In our always-on, 24/7 world, perhaps there's wisdom to be found in the patient rhythms of hibernating animals, in their willingness to surrender to the seasons and trust in the ancient timing systems that have guided life through countless winters. As autumn leaves begin to fall and daylight hours grow shorter, somewhere in forests and meadows around the world, the ancient timing systems of hibernating animals are already at work, preparing for the long sleep ahead. It's a quiet symphony of biological coordination, playing out in burrows and dens, guided by cues as old as life itself and as reliable as the turning of the earth around the sun. The remarkable timing mechanisms that orchestrate hibernation represent just one layer of what might be the most complex biological puzzle evolution has ever solved. But to truly understand hibernation, we must venture into the hidden world that exists beneath the frozen ground, behind the sealed den entrances, in the secret chambers where winter's greatest magic unfolds in absolute silence. Picture, if you will, a January morning in the Canadian Rockies. The temperature has plummeted to 40 below zero, and the wind cuts across the landscape like a blade. Snow lies in drifts 10 feet deep, and the silence is so complete it seems to ring in your ears. Above this frozen wilderness, nothing moves except the occasional raven, its black form stark against the white expanse. But beneath the snow, in a carefully constructed den, a black bear lies in perfect stillness, her massive form curled around two tiny cubs no larger than hamsters. This scene, replicated in countless variations across the hibernating world, represents one of nature's most profound mysteries. How do these animals not merely survive but actually thrive during the harshest months of the year? How do they maintain life processes while existing in a state that appears, to all outward observation, barely distinguishable from death itself? The answer lies in understanding hibernation not as a single state, but as a complex spectrum of survival strategies, each finely calibrated to specific environmental challenges and evolutionary histories. True hibernation, the kind practiced by ground squirrels and marmots, involves such dramatic physiological changes that early researchers sometimes struggled to determine whether the animals they were studying were alive or dead. Body temperatures drop to within degrees of freezing, heart rates slow to a handful of beats per minute, and breathing becomes so infrequent that there might be 5 or 6 minutes between breaths. But this extreme form represents just one end of the hibernation spectrum. At the other end, we find the fascinating phenomenon of torpor, practiced by creatures as diverse as hummingbirds and lemurs. Daily torpor allows these animals to dramatically reduce their energy expenditure during the coldest parts of each day or night, essentially taking mini hibernation breaks, that help them survive periods when food is scarce or weather conditions are particularly harsh. Between these extremes lies a rich variety of dormancy strategies, each representing a different solution to the fundamental challenge of surviving resource scarcity. Some animals, like certain bat species, combine elements of both true hibernation and daily torpor, entering deep dormancy for weeks at a time, but punctuating their winter sleep with brief periods of activity when weather conditions permit foraging. The physiological mechanics of these different strategies reveal the incredible plasticity of life itself. In true hibernators, the process begins with dramatic changes to brain chemistry. Specialized neurons in the hypothalamus begin producing unique proteins that essentially reprogram the animal's entire metabolic system. These hibernation-specific proteins act like biological switches, turning off energy-expensive processes while maintaining just enough activity to keep essential systems functioning. One of the most remarkable aspects of this transformation involves the animal's relationship with oxygen. During normal activity, mammalian cells depend on a constant supply of oxygen to fuel their metabolic processes, but hibernating animals dramatically reduce their oxygen consumption, sometimes to less than 5% of normal levels. This isn't simply a matter of breathing less frequently. The cells themselves become more efficient at extracting energy from limited oxygen supplies, essentially learning to do more with less. The cellular changes that enable this metabolic efficiency are staggering in their complexity. Mitochondria, those tiny powerhouses within each cell, undergo structural modifications that allow them to produce energy through alternative pathways that require far less oxygen. At the same time, cells begin producing specialized enzymes that help break down and recycle cellular components, essentially cannibalizing non-essential structures to fuel critical life processes. This cellular recycling process is so efficient that some hibernating animals actually emerge from their winter sleep in better physical condition than when they entered hibernation. Bears, for example, maintain their muscle mass and bone density despite months of complete inactivity, something that would be impossible for non-hibernating mammals. The mechanisms behind this remarkable preservation of physical condition are still being studied, but they appear to involve specialized hormone cycles and cellular repair processes that are unique to hibernating species. The temperature regulation challenges faced by hibernating animals would be insurmountable for most mammals. Maintaining normal body temperature requires enormous amounts of energy, particularly in cold environments. Hibernating animals solve this problem through a carefully controlled process of thermoregulation that would be fatal to non-hibernating species. As hibernation deepens, the animal's internal thermostat gradually resets to match environmental conditions. This isn't a passive cooling process, it's an active metabolic shift that requires precise coordination across multiple body systems. The cardiovascular system adjusts blood flow patterns to minimize heat loss while ensuring that vital organs continue to receive adequate circulation. The respiratory system modifies breathing patterns to reduce heat loss through the lungs, while maintaining sufficient oxygen levels for survival. Some hibernating animals take temperature regulation to extraordinary extremes. Wood frogs, found across much of northern North America, actually allow ice crystals to form in their body cavities while protecting their vital organs through the production of glucose-based antifreeze compounds. These remarkable amphibians essentially freeze solid each winter, their hearts stopping completely, only to thaw out and resume normal activity when spring temperatures return. The wood frog's survival strategy seems to violate everything we know about mammalian physiology, yet it works with remarkable consistency. The secret lies in controlling where ice formation occurs within the body. While extracellular spaces may freeze solid, the frog's cells remain ice-free thanks to specialized proteins and high concentrations of glucose that act as biological antifreeze. When spring arrives, the thawing process occurs gradually and in reverse order, ensuring that vital systems come online in the proper sequence. Even more remarkable are the painted turtles that overwinter in pond bottoms, surviving for months without breathing at all. These incredible reptiles switch their metabolism to anaerobic pathways, essentially living without oxygen for the entire winter. They accomplish this through modifications to their blood chemistry and cellular metabolism that would be toxic to most other vertebrates, yet they emerge each spring, apparently unharmed by their months-long breath-holding session. The diversity of hibernation strategies extends into the insect world as well, where creatures have evolved survival mechanisms that make vertebrate hibernation seem almost conventional by comparison. The Arctic woolly bear caterpillar spends most of its 14-year lifespan frozen solid, thawing out for just a few weeks each summer to feed and grow before freezing again. These remarkable insects essentially stretch their development across more than a decade, slowly accumulating the resources needed to complete their metamorphosis into adult moths. Honeybees employ a completely different strategy, forming winter clusters, where the colony maintains a warm core through collective muscle contractions, while the outer layers of bees essentially enter a state of semi-hibernation. The cluster continuously rotates, with bees moving from the warm interior to the cold exterior and back again, ensuring that no individual bee becomes too chilled while conserving the colony's overall energy reserves. The study of these diverse hibernation strategies has revealed that the capacity for entering dormant states is far more widespread in the animal kingdom than previously believed. Recent research has identified hibernation-like states in animals as diverse as lemurs, hedgehogs, and even some birds. Each species has evolved its own unique approach to surviving harsh conditions, creating a vast library of biological solutions to environmental challenges. Understanding these different strategies has profound implications for human medicine and technology. The metabolic flexibility demonstrated by hibernating animals could potentially be applied to treating stroke victims, preserving organs for transplant, or even enabling long-distance space travel. Researchers are actively studying hibernation mechanisms in hopes of developing medical interventions that could induce hibernation-like states in humans when beneficial. The neuroprotective effects observed in hibernating animals are particularly intriguing to medical researchers. Despite months of dramatically reduced brain activity, hibernating animals show no signs of cognitive impairment when they emerge from dormancy. In fact, some studies suggest that hibernation may actually provide protective benefits against neurodegenerative diseases, possibly through the activation of cellular repair mechanisms that are suppressed during normal activity. The metabolic efficiency achieved by hibernating animals also offers insights into treating diabetes and obesity in humans. The way hibernating animals manage glucose, metabolism, and fat storage without developing the health problems typically associated with prolonged fasting could inform new approaches to treating metabolic disorders. Perhaps most remarkably, hibernating animals seem to have solved the problem of aging during dormancy. While chronological time continues to pass, biological aging appears to slow dramatically during hibernation. Some researchers speculate that hibernating animals may actually live longer than their non-hibernating relatives, precisely because they spend significant portions of their lives in this metabolically protected state. The mechanisms behind this apparent slowing of the aging process are still being investigated, but they may involve the same cellular repair and recycling processes that allow hibernating animals to maintain their physical condition during months of inactivity. If these mechanisms could be understood and potentially applied to humans, the implications for treating age-related diseases and extending healthy lifespan could be revolutionary. The psychological and neurological aspects of hibernation present equally fascinating puzzles. What, if anything, do hibernating animals experience during their months of dormancy? Do they dream? Are they aware of their surroundings? Recent research using advanced brain imaging techniques has revealed that hibernating animals maintain more neural activity than previously believed, though at dramatically reduced levels compared to their active states. Some studies suggest that hibernating animals may experience something analogous to dreaming, with periodic bursts of brain activity that resemble REM sleep patterns. However, these patterns are stretched out over much longer timescales than normal sleep cycles, raising intriguing questions about the nature of consciousness during hibernation. The sensory world of hibernating animals remains largely mysterious. While they appear to be completely unresponsive to external stimuli during deep hibernation, some species retain enough sensory awareness to respond to extreme threats or environmental changes. Bears, for example, can be roused from their winter lethargy if their dens are disturbed, though this arousal comes at a significant metabolic cost. The navigation systems used by hibernating animals to find their way back to specific den sites year after year also suggest some form of spatial memory that persists through hibernation. Ground squirrels often return to the exact same burrow systems they used in previous years, indicating that spatial memories remain intact despite months of reduced brain activity. The social aspects of hibernation add yet another layer of complexity to this already intricate phenomenon. Species that hibernate in groups must coordinate their timing not only with environmental cues, but also with the hibernation schedules of their companions. The failure of even one individual to synchronize properly can disrupt the thermal dynamics of a group hibernation site, potentially affecting the survival of the entire community. Some hibernating species exhibit remarkable cooperation in preparing for winter, with individuals working together to construct elaborate communal hibernation sites or sharing food caches that will sustain the group through the dormant period. These cooperative behaviors require sophisticated communication and planning abilities that challenge our understanding of cognitive capacity in non-human animals. The evolutionary history of hibernation reveals that this remarkable survival strategy has emerged independently multiple times across different animal lineages. This convergent evolution suggests that the benefits of hibernation are so significant that natural selection has repeatedly favored the development of dormancy capabilities in species facing seasonal resource scarcity. Genetic studies of hibernating animals have identified some of the specific genes and regulatory networks that control hibernation processes. Interestingly, many of these genes are ancient, suggesting that the capacity for entering dormant states may be a fundamental property of animal life that has been preserved and refined over hundreds of millions of years of evolution. The discovery that even some primates, including certain lemur species, can enter hibernation-like states has raised intriguing questions about whether humans might retain some vestigial capacity for metabolic dormancy. While modern humans certainly don't hibernate, our physiology does show some seasonal variations that might represent evolutionary echoes of ancestral hibernation capabilities. As we delve deeper into the hidden world of hibernation, we begin to see it not just as a survival strategy, but as a window into the fundamental nature of life itself. These animals demonstrate that the boundary between life and death is far more fluid than we might imagine, that consciousness and awareness exist on a spectrum rather than as simple on-off states, and that the biological systems we take for granted are capable of transformations that seem to border on the miraculous. The quiet drama playing out in hibernation dens around the world represents one of nature's most sophisticated solutions to the challenge of survival in harsh environments. Each hibernating animal, from the tiniest bat to the largest bear, embodies millions of years of evolutionary refinement, a living testament to life's remarkable capacity for adaptation and endurance. In the profound stillness of a hibernation den, where time seems to slow to a crawl and life hangs in perfect balance between activity and dormancy, we find perhaps the most elegant demonstration of nature's ability to find solutions to impossible problems. These sleeping animals, neither fully alive in the conventional sense nor truly dormant, exist in a state that challenges our very understanding of what it means to be a living being. The mysteries of hibernation extend far beyond the individual animal, curled in its den, They ripple outward through entire ecosystems, shaping the rhythms of forests and meadows in ways both subtle and profound. When we begin to understand hibernation not just as a biological phenomenon but as an ecological force, we discover that these sleeping animals are quietly orchestrating the very fabric of the natural world around them. Consider the forest in autumn, that brief window when hibernating animals enter their feeding frenzy. The woods become a theatre of frantic activity as bears, chipmunks, and countless other creatures race against the shortening days to accumulate the resources they'll need for survival. This isn't just individual preparation, it's a massive redistribution of energy and nutrients that affects every level of the ecosystem. A single black bear preparing for hibernation might consume 20,000 calories per day during peak feeding season. That's equivalent to eating 40 cheeseburgers daily, except the bear's menu consists of berries, nuts, fish, and whatever other high-energy foods the forest can provide. This voracious appetite doesn't just affect the bear, it shapes the distribution of seeds across vast territories, influences the survival rates of various plant species, and even affects the nutrient content of soils through the bear's waste products. When bears gorge themselves on salmon during autumn runs, they're not just building fat reserves for winter, they're participating in one of nature's most important nutrient transfer systems. The salmon, rich with marine nutrients accumulated during their ocean years, are captured and consumed by bears who then distribute these oceanic resources throughout the inland forest through their droppings and eventual death. When hibernating bears emerge in spring, they continue this distribution process, carrying marine-derived nutrients far from their original salmon streams. This nutrient cycling becomes even more remarkable when we consider that hibernating bears don't defecate during their months of dormancy. Instead, they form what's called a fecal plug, a hardened mass that seals their digestive tract during hibernation. When spring arrives and the bears become active again, this plug is expelled, often in locations miles from where the original nutrients were consumed. It's a biological time-release fertilizer system, delivering concentrated nutrients to forest soils just as spring growth begins. The ecological impact of hibernation extends into the plant kingdom in equally fascinating ways. Many plants have evolved to synchronize their fruiting cycles with the pre-hibernation feeding patterns of local animals. Berries ripen just when bears need them most. Nut trees drop their seeds precisely when squirrels and chipmunks are gathering winter stores. These aren't coincidences, they're the result of millions of years of coevolution, plants and animals shaping each other's life cycles in an intricate dance of mutual benefit. Some plants have become so dependent on hibernating animals for seed dispersal that their reproductive success is directly tied to the health of local hibernator populations. When hibernating animal numbers decline, whether due to disease, habitat loss, or climate change, the plants that depend on them for seed dispersal may also struggle to maintain their populations. It's a reminder that hibernation is never just about individual survival. It's about the complex web of relationships that hold ecosystems together. The temporary disappearance of hibernating animals from their ecosystems creates what ecologists call ecological release for other species. When bears enter their dens, smaller predators may expand their hunting ranges. When hibernating seed dispersers disappear, other animals may take on increased importance in spreading plant seeds. These seasonal shifts in ecological roles create dynamic, ever-changing relationships between species that add resilience and flexibility to natural systems. The timing of hibernation also plays crucial roles in the reproductive cycles of many non-hibernating species. Some birds time their migration patterns to avoid competition with hibernating animals during certain seasons, while taking advantage of the reduced predation pressure that occurs when hibernating predators are dormant. The emergence of hibernating animals in spring often coincides with peak breeding seasons for their prey species, creating a carefully timed ecological symphony where each player enters and exits the stage at precisely the right moment. Hibernation even affects the physical structure of habitats in profound ways. The digging activities of ground squirrels, marmots, and other burrowing hibernators create extensive underground networks that provide shelter for countless other species. These burrow systems, abandoned or shared, become condominiums for insects, small mammals, reptiles, and amphibians. The soil disturbance created by hibernator excavation activities also influences plant growth patterns and nutrient cycling in ways that can persist for decades. Some of the most remarkable ecological relationships involving hibernation occur in cave systems, where bats gather in enormous colonies to spend their winter months. These caves become temporary ecosystems in their own right, with unique communities of insects, spiders, and microorganisms that depend entirely on the presence of hibernating bats. The bat guano that accumulates over winter supports specialized food webs found nowhere else on Earth, creating biodiversity hotspots in the depths of otherwise barren caverns. The emergence of bats from hibernation represents one of nature's most spectacular ecological events. Millions of individuals emerging simultaneously from their winter retreats create temporary feeding frenzies that can strip entire areas of flying insects within hours. This massive predation pressure influences insect population dynamics across vast regions, affecting everything from agricultural pest levels to the pollination success of flowering plants. The relationship between hibernating animals and their predators creates fascinating ecological dynamics. Predators that don't hibernate must adapt their hunting strategies to account for the seasonal disappearance of hibernating prey species. Some switch to alternative food sources, others modify their own activity patterns, and a few even time their own reproductive cycles to coincide with the emergence of hibernating prey in spring when they're most vulnerable. The bodies of animals that die during hibernation become important resource pulses in ecosystems where nutrients are often scarce during winter months. These casualties, while representing individual tragedies, provide crucial nutrition for scavengers and decomposer organisms during the lean winter period. The nutrients released from these deaths often become incorporated into spring plant growth, creating another layer of ecological cycling that connects hibernation to the broader ecosystem function. Forest fires create complex relationships with hibernation patterns that scientists are only beginning to understand. Some hibernating species benefit from the increased sun exposure and plant diversity that follow fires, while others may lose critical denning sites or food sources. The timing of fires relative to hibernation cycles can determine whether these disturbances are beneficial or catastrophic for hibernating populations, creating another variable in the already complex equation of ecosystem management. Climate change is beginning to disrupt these ancient ecological relationships in ways that ripple through entire ecosystems. When hibernating animals emerge earlier due to warmer spring temperatures, they may find that their traditional food sources haven't yet become available, creating temporal mismatches that can affect survival and reproduction. These phenological shifts, changes in the timing of biological events, can cascade through food webs in unpredictable ways. Some hibernating species are responding to climate change by altering their hibernation patterns, entering dormancy later in autumn or emerging earlier in spring. While these adjustments might help individual animals cope with changing conditions, they can disrupt the ecological relationships that have developed over thousands of years. Plants that depend on hibernating animals for seed dispersal may find their partners arriving at the wrong times, leading to reduced reproductive success for both animals and plants. The study of hibernation's ecological impacts has revealed that these sleeping animals are far from passive participants in their ecosystems. Even while dormant, they continue to influence their environments through their very absence, creating opportunities for other species while maintaining their roles in nutrient cycling and habitat modification. The hibernation sites themselves become temporary ecosystems, supporting specialized communities of organisms that depend on the unique conditions created by dormant animals. Research into the ecological roles of hibernating animals has also highlighted the importance of connectivity in landscapes. Many hibernating species require access to different habitat types throughout their active seasons, feeding areas, water sources, and suitable denning sites. The fragmentation of these landscapes by human development can make it impossible for animals to complete their annual cycles successfully, leading to population declines that affect entire ecological communities. Conservation efforts increasingly recognize that protecting hibernating animals means protecting entire landscapes and the ecological processes that sustain them. This systems-level approach to conservation acknowledges that hibernation is not just a biological curiosity, but a fundamental ecological process that shapes the structure and function of natural communities across vast regions of the planet. The economic value of hibernation-related ecosystem services is beginning to be quantified by environmental economists. The pest control services provided by hibernating insectivores like bats, the seed dispersal services of hibernating mammals, and the soil aeration provided by burrowing hibernators all contribute billions of dollars worth of ecological services to human economies. These calculations are helping policymakers understand that protecting hibernating animals isn't just about preserving biological diversity, it's about maintaining the natural systems that support human well-being. The cultural and spiritual significance of hibernation varies dramatically across human cultures, but common themes emerge around the world. Many indigenous cultures view hibernating animals as teachers, demonstrating the wisdom of rest, patience, and preparation for difficult times. The bear in particular appears in countless cultural traditions as a symbol of introspection, renewal, and the cyclical nature of life and death. These cultural perspectives often contain profound ecological wisdom that modern science is only beginning to appreciate. Traditional knowledge systems frequently recognize the complex relationships between hibernating animals and their environments, understanding that the health of hibernating populations reflects the health of entire ecosystems. This holistic view of hibernation as an ecological phenomenon rather than just a biological curiosity offers valuable insights for contemporary conservation efforts. The seasonal rhythms created by hibernation also influence human communities in ways we're only beginning to understand. The ebb and flow of animal activity throughout the year has shaped human hunting practices, agricultural timing, and even cultural celebrations for thousands of years. While modern urban life has largely disconnected us from these natural rhythms, they continue to influence the landscapes we inhabit and the ecosystems that support us. As we deepen our understanding of hibernation's ecological dimensions, we begin to see these sleeping animals not as isolated individuals pursuing private survival strategies, but as integral components of vast, interconnected systems that span continents and connect seasons. Each hibernating ground squirrel, each slumbering bear, each torpid bat is a thread in an enormous ecological tapestry that has been weaving itself for millions of years. The quiet animal curled in its winter den is simultaneously an individual fighting for survival and a participant in ecological processes that dwarf any single lifetime. Its rhythms of activity and dormancy pulse through the landscape like a heartbeat, driving cycles of growth and rest, abundance and scarcity, connection and separation that define the very essence of life in seasonal environments. In this broader ecological context, hibernation reveals itself to be far more than just a remarkable biological adaptation. It's a fundamental organizing principle of life in climates where seasons bring dramatic changes in resource availability and environmental conditions. The animals that have mastered this ancient art of seasonal slumber haven't just solved the problem of individual winter survival, they've become the architects of entire ecosystems, shaping the natural world through their presence, their absence, and their patient return each spring to a world made new by their temporary departure. Human fascination with hibernation extends far beyond scientific curiosity into realms that touch the very core of our existence as conscious beings navigating an often harsh and unpredictable world. Throughout history, across cultures and continents, hibernation has captured our imagination in ways that reveal as much about human nature as they do about the sleeping animals themselves. There's something profoundly appealing about the idea of hibernation to our modern, always connected minds. In a world where we're expected to be perpetually available, constantly productive, and endlessly engaged, the hibernating bear in its den represents a kind of ultimate permission slip for rest. Here is a creature that has not only found a way to step completely out of the demands of daily existence, but has turned that withdrawal into the very strategy that ensures its survival. This appeal goes beyond mere fantasy or escapism. Medical researchers are discovering that humans may have more in common with hibernating animals than we previously imagined. While we don't hibernate in any traditional sense, human physiology does show seasonal variations that hint at ancient evolutionary connections to dormancy strategies. Our sleep patterns change with the seasons, our metabolism fluctuates, and even our immune function varies predictably throughout the year. The study of seasonal affective disorder has revealed that some humans experience hibernation-like symptoms during winter months. Increased sleep duration, changes in appetite, reduced activity levels, and alterations in mood that mirror some aspects of pre-hibernation behavior in animals. While these changes can be problematic in our modern context, they may represent evolutionary echoes of ancestral survival strategies that helped our species navigate seasonal resource scarcity. Recent research into human sleep has identified genes and biological pathways that are remarkably similar to those that control hibernation in other mammals. These discoveries have led some scientists to speculate that the capacity for entering hibernation-like states might still exist in human biology, dormant but potentially accessible under the right circumstances. The implications of this possibility extend from medical applications to space exploration, where induced hibernation could make long-duration spaceflights more feasible. The medical applications of hibernation research are already beginning to show promise in treating a variety of conditions. Therapeutic hypothermia, inspired by the temperature regulation strategies of hibernating animals, is now used to protect brain function in patients suffering from cardiac arrest or stroke. By cooling the body to slow metabolic processes, doctors can buy precious time for interventions while reducing the risk of brain damage from oxygen deprivation. Researchers studying the muscle preservation mechanisms of hibernating bears have identified potential treatments for muscle wasting diseases and the muscle atrophy that affects bedridden patients or astronauts in zero gravity. Bears somehow maintain their muscle mass and bone density despite months of complete inactivity, accomplishing something that would be impossible for humans under normal circumstances. Understanding these mechanisms could lead to revolutionary treatments for conditions ranging from muscular dystrophy to osteoporosis. The neuroprotective effects observed in hibernating animals have opened new avenues of research into treating neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. The cellular repair mechanisms that protect hibernating brains during months of reduced activity might hold keys to preventing or reversing the damage associated with these devastating conditions. Some researchers are exploring whether hibernation-like states could be induced in specific brain regions to promote healing and regeneration. The metabolic flexibility demonstrated by hibernating animals has also inspired research into treating diabetes and obesity. The way hibernating animals manage glucose metabolism and fat storage without developing metabolic disorders could inform new approaches to managing these increasingly common health problems. Some hibernating animals actually improve their insulin sensitivity during dormancy, accomplishing the opposite of what typically happens during prolonged fasting in humans. Perhaps most intriguingly, hibernation research has begun to shed light on the aging process itself. Many hibernating animals appear to age more slowly during their dormant periods, suggesting that hibernation might actually extend lifespan by reducing the cellular damage that accumulates during normal activity. If these mechanisms could be understood and potentially applied to humans, the implications for treating age-related diseases and extending healthy lifespan could be transformative. The space exploration applications of hibernation research have captured imaginations and research funding alike. Long-duration missions to Mars or other distant destinations present enormous challenges in terms of resource consumption, psychological stress, and physiological deterioration during extended periods in space. If astronauts could enter hibernation-like states during the journey, it could dramatically reduce the resources needed for life support while protecting the crew from the physical and mental stresses of long-term spaceflight. NASA and other space agencies are actively funding research into induced hibernation technologies, exploring everything from pharmaceutical approaches that could trigger hibernation-like states to environmental manipulation techniques that might allow human bodies to enter energy-saving dormancy modes. While true human hibernation remains in the realm of science fiction, the rapid pace of research in this area suggests that some form of therapeutic dormancy might become reality within decades. The psychological aspects of hibernation research have opened fascinating discussions about consciousness, dreams, and the nature of subjective experience during altered states. What might it feel like to experience time the way a hibernating animal does, with months passing like brief moments? How would consciousness itself be altered by the dramatic slowing of neural processes that occurs during hibernation? These questions have implications beyond pure scientific curiosity. Understanding how consciousness persists or changes during hibernation-like states could inform research into comas, vegetative states, and other conditions where normal consciousness is altered. They might also provide insights into the nature of time, perception, and subjective experience that could have applications in treating anxiety disorders, depression, and other conditions where altered time perception plays a role. The environmental applications of hibernation research are equally compelling. As climate change continues to disrupt ecosystems worldwide, understanding how animals adapt their hibernation strategies to changing conditions could inform conservation efforts and help predict which species might be most vulnerable to environmental changes. Some researchers are exploring whether assisted hibernation techniques could help endangered species survive periods of extreme environmental stress. The biomimetic applications of hibernation research extend into fields as diverse as architecture and materials science. The insulation strategies used by hibernating animals have inspired new approaches to building design that could dramatically reduce energy consumption for heating and cooling. The cellular preservation mechanisms of hibernating animals are informing research into better methods for storing organs for transplant and preserving biological materials for research. Even the timing mechanisms that control hibernation are inspiring technological innovations. The biological clocks that allow animals to precisely time their entry into and emergence from hibernation are serving as models for developing more sophisticated environmental sensors and automated systems that can respond to complex combinations of environmental cues. The study of hibernation has also revealed important insights into the relationship between individual behavior and environmental conditions that have applications far beyond biology. The way hibernating animals integrate multiple environmental signals to make complex decisions about when to enter dormancy could inform research into artificial intelligence systems that need to make decisions based on incomplete, uncertain information. The economic implications of hibernation research extend across multiple industries. The agricultural applications alone could be worth billions of dollars if hibernation-inspired techniques could help crops survive extreme weather events or extend growing seasons. The medical applications could revolutionize treatment for numerous conditions, while the space exploration applications could make interplanetary travel economically feasible for the first time. The philosophical implications of hibernation research challenge some of our most fundamental assumptions about life, consciousness, and the nature of existence itself. If consciousness can be dramatically slowed or altered while still maintaining continuity of identity, what does that tell us about the nature of the self? If life processes can be paused and resumed without interruption, where exactly is the boundary between life and death? These questions become particularly poignant when we consider the potential applications of hibernation research to end-of-life care and life extension. If terminally ill patients could enter hibernation-like states while waiting for new treatments to be developed, would that constitute ethical medical care or an artificial prolongation of suffering? If healthy individuals could hibernate through periods of social or environmental upheaval, what would that mean for concepts of personal responsibility and social engagement? The cultural impact of hibernation research is already visible in literature, film, and popular culture, where hibernation themes appear with increasing frequency. From science fiction stories about hibernating space travelers to philosophical novels exploring the nature of time and consciousness, hibernation has become a powerful metaphor for transformation, patience, and the cyclical nature of existence. The educational applications of hibernation research have also proven valuable in teaching complex biological and ecological concepts. The integrated nature of hibernation spanning physiology, ecology, behavior, and evolution makes it an excellent vehicle for demonstrating how different biological systems work together. Students studying hibernation naturally encounter concepts from molecular biology to ecosystem ecology, making it a powerful tool for interdisciplinary education. The citizen science applications of hibernation research have engaged thousands of volunteers in monitoring hibernating animal populations, tracking emergent states, and documenting changes in hibernation patterns over time. These efforts have not only provided valuable data for researchers, but have also helped create a more informed and engaged public that understands the importance of protecting hibernating species and their habitats. As hibernation research continues to advance, it's becoming clear that this ancient survival strategy has far more to offer than we initially imagined. Each new discovery reveals additional layers of complexity and additional applications that could benefit human health, technology, and our understanding of life itself. The sleeping animals that inspired our initial curiosity have become teachers, showing us new possibilities for medicine, conservation, space exploration, and even philosophy. The hibernating bear in its den, the ground squirrel curled in its burrow, the bat hanging motionless in its cave. These images that have captured human imagination for millennia continue to inspire new research, new applications, and new ways of understanding our place in the natural world. They remind us that sometimes the most profound insights come not from action but from rest, not from movement but from stillness, not from complexity but from the elegant simplicity of sleep. In our exploration of hibernation's human dimensions, we discover that this ancient biological strategy continues to evolve, not through genetic changes in hibernating animals, but through human ingenuity and curiosity. We are, in a sense, extending hibernation beyond its biological origins, finding new applications and new meanings that connect us more deeply to the natural world while pointing toward possibilities that our hibernating teachers could never have imagined. The story of hibernation, it turns out, is not just the story of animals sleeping through winter, it's the story of life's incredible adaptability, of evolution's endless creativity, and of humanity's remarkable ability to learn from the natural world and apply those lessons in ways that benefit all life on Earth. As we continue to unlock the secrets of winter slumber, we find that hibernation has much more to teach us about survival, adaptation, and the profound interconnectedness of all living things. As winter deepens and snow blankets the landscapes where countless animals lie in their hidden chambers, there's something almost mystical about the silence that settles over the hibernating world. It's a silence so profound, that it seems to hold its breath, waiting. But this quiet conceals one of nature's most remarkable ongoing experiments, an exploration of consciousness, time, and the very boundaries of what it means to be alive. In laboratories around the world, researchers are peering into this mystery with tools that would have seemed like magic to earlier generations of scientists. Advanced brain imaging techniques can now observe the neural activity of hibernating animals in real time, revealing patterns of brain waves that follow rhythms unlike anything seen in the waking world. These are not the familiar cycles of human sleep, with their predictable stages and regular intervals. Instead, they're stretched across timescales that seem to belong to geology rather than biology. Imagine, if you will, a single dream unfolding over the course of weeks, each thought lasting hours, each memory surfacing and submerging, like continents drifting across an inner ocean of consciousness. While we can't know for certain what hibernating animals experience during their long slumber, the electrical signatures of their brains suggest something far more complex than simple unconsciousness. There are patterns within patterns, rhythms within rhythms, as if their minds are composing slow symphonies in the language of neural activity. The temperature gradients within hibernation sites create their own hidden worlds of biological activity. Even as the animal lies motionless, its body becomes a landscape of precisely controlled thermal zones. The core organs maintain just enough warmth to sustain life, while the extremities cool to temperatures that would cause frostbite in active animals. Yet this isn't random cooling, it's a carefully orchestrated process that requires constant microscopic adjustments, like a master chef maintaining multiple dishes at exactly the right temperatures. Within this thermal landscape, cellular repair mechanisms work with the patience of master craftsmen. DNA repair enzymes move through chromosomes like careful editors, fixing molecular typos that accumulate during normal life. Protein recycling systems sort through cellular components with the methodical precision of librarians, breaking down damaged structures and rebuilding them with remarkable efficiency. It's as if hibernation provides a sanctuary not just for the whole animal, but for every cell within it, a time for renovation and renewal that's impossible during the demands of active life. The hibernating animal's relationship with time becomes even more mysterious when we consider how memory formation and consolidation might work during these extended periods of altered consciousness. In humans and other active animals, memories are typically consolidated during sleep, with the brain replaying and organizing the experiences of the day. But what happens to memory processes that unfold over months rather than hours? How does a hibernating animal maintain its learned behaviors, its spatial memories, its recognition of family members across such vast gaps in conscious experience? Some researchers propose that hibernating animals might experience a form of deep time consciousness, an awareness that operates on completely different temporal scales than our familiar waking consciousness. Just as human meditation practitioners report experiencing states where time seems to slow or stop entirely, hibernating animals might exist in a realm where seasonal cycles feel like brief moments, and the passage of winter becomes a single, extended present moment. The social dynamics of hibernation present equally intriguing puzzles. For animals that hibernate in groups, the coordination of consciousness levels across multiple individuals creates complex challenges. How do hibernating bats in a cave colony synchronize their occasional arousals? How do ground squirrel families coordinate their emergence timing across different burrows? The mechanisms that allow such synchronization remain largely mysterious, suggesting forms of communication or shared awareness that we're only beginning to understand. The hibernating animal's digestive system undergoes transformations that seem to defy basic principles of mammalian physiology. The stomach, normally a churning cauldron of acid and enzymes, becomes as still as a mountain lake. The intestines, usually in constant motion, settle into profound quiet. Yet these organs don't simply shut down, they enter a state of suspended animation that maintains their structural integrity while consuming virtually no energy. It's as if they're holding their breath for months at a time, waiting patiently for the return of their normal function. The liver during hibernation becomes something like a master chemist, working with infinite patience and precision. Instead of processing the constant stream of nutrients from digestion, it focuses entirely on managing the animal's fat reserves, converting stored triglycerides into the specific types of energy needed to fuel different organs and systems. This metabolic alchemy requires exquisite control over hundreds of different enzymatic reactions, each proceeding at precisely the right rate to maintain the delicate balance between energy production and conservation. Meanwhile, the hibernating animal's immune system faces the challenge of maintaining vigilance against pathogens while operating on a severely restricted energy budget. Some components of immune function are dramatically reduced during hibernation, while others are actually enhanced. It's as if the immune system reorganizes itself around hibernation-specific priorities, focusing on the types of threats most likely to be encountered during dormancy, while temporarily setting aside defenses against challenges that are unlikely during winter months. The bone and muscle preservation mechanisms of hibernating animals continue to astound researchers studying human health applications. While humans lose muscle mass and bone density after just weeks of bed rest, hibernating bears emerge from months of inactivity with their skeletal and muscular systems intact. The cellular signals that maintain bone strength and muscle mass during hibernation operate through pathways that seem to bypass the normal use it or lose it principles that govern human physiology. Recent discoveries have revealed that hibernating animals produce specialized hormones and growth factors that actively prevent the muscle wasting and bone loss that would normally occur during prolonged inactivity. These substances work at the cellular level to maintain protein synthesis and prevent the breakdown of structural tissues, creating a biological maintenance system that operates even during the deepest dormancy. Understanding these mechanisms could revolutionize treatment for conditions ranging from muscular dystrophy to the muscle wasting that affects astronauts during long space missions. The cardiovascular adaptations of hibernating animals represent some of the most elegant solutions to physiological challenges found anywhere in biology. The heart must continue to pump blood throughout the body while operating at a tiny fraction of its normal rate, maintaining circulation to vital organs while allowing less critical tissues to enter their own states of dormancy. This requires precise control over blood vessel dilation and constriction, creating a dynamic circulatory map that changes throughout hibernation as different organs cycle through varying levels of activity. The blood itself becomes a different substance during hibernation, with changes in viscosity, oxygen carrying capacity, and clotting properties that would be pathological in active animals but serve important functions during dormancy. Some hibernating animals produce specialized proteins that prevent blood clots from forming in slow-moving circulation, while others modify their red blood cells to extract oxygen more efficiently from each breath. The hibernating animal's kidneys perform perhaps the most remarkable balancing act of all, maintaining fluid and electrolyte balance while processing virtually no new input and producing minimal waste output. They accomplish this through cellular recycling processes, so efficient that they essentially create a closed-loop system, reprocessing and reusing molecules that would normally be eliminated as waste. This biological recycling system is so effective that some hibernating animals actually improve their overall health during hibernation, emerging with better kidney function than when they entered dormancy. The hormonal orchestration of hibernation involves dozens of different chemical messengers, each with its own role in the complex symphony of dormancy. Growth hormones, stress hormones, reproductive hormones, and metabolic hormones all adjust their production patterns in carefully coordinated ways. The timing and intensity of these hormonal changes are so precise that researchers can often predict the exact day when a hibernating animal will begin to emerge from dormancy simply by monitoring hormone levels in blood samples. The pineal gland, that tiny light-sensitive structure deep within the brain, becomes particularly important during hibernation. This biological clock responds to the subtle changes in daylight that occur throughout winter, helping to fine-tune the hibernating animal's internal timing systems. Even while the animal lies motionless in complete darkness, its pineal gland continues to track the changing seasons, preparing the body for eventual emergence when conditions are optimal. Temperature-sensitive neurons throughout the hibernating animal's body create a network of biological thermometers that monitor conditions both inside and outside the animal. These cellular sensors can detect temperature changes as small as fractions of a degree, allowing the hibernating animal to make microscopic adjustments to its metabolic rate and heat production. It's a feedback system of extraordinary sensitivity, maintaining the animal's body temperature within narrow ranges despite dramatic fluctuations in environmental conditions. The hibernating animal's fat stores undergo their own complex transformations throughout the dormancy period. Different types of fat deposits are metabolized in specific sequences, with the animal's body accessing energy reserves in a predetermined order that maximizes survival chances. Some fat deposits are reserved for emergency situations, while others are gradually consumed throughout hibernation. The chemical composition of the remaining fat changes as hibernation progresses, with the body modifying fatty acid profiles to optimize energy extraction efficiency. As we delve deeper into these microscopic worlds within hibernating animals, we begin to appreciate the sheer complexity of systems that appear, from the outside, to be simply sleeping. Each hibernating animal is simultaneously a biological time machine, a living laboratory for studying extreme physiology, and a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering that has been refined over millions of years. The quiet animal in its den represents not just an individual surviving winter, but an embodiment of life's most sophisticated strategies for enduring the impossible. The study of these hidden mechanisms continues to reveal new layers of complexity and new applications for human benefit. Each discovery opens additional questions about the nature of consciousness, the limits of biological adaptation, and the potential for applying hibernation principles to human challenges. The sleeping animals that have captured our imagination for so long continue to teach us about survival, adaptation, and the remarkable plasticity of life itself. In the profound stillness of a hibernation den, where time moves like honey and life hangs suspended between seasons, we find not emptiness, but incredible richness, a world of biological processes so sophisticated and so beautifully orchestrated that they challenge our understanding of what's possible within the boundaries of a single lifetime. These animals haven't simply found a way to sleep through winter, they've discovered how to transform winter itself into an opportunity for renewal, repair, and preparation for the abundant life that awaits their return. As our journey through the world of hibernation draws to a gentle close, like the slow emergence of spring light filtering through winter's last snow, we find ourselves changed by what we've discovered together. We began with the simple image of a sleeping bear, but we've uncovered something far more profound, a testament to life's extraordinary capacity for patience, preparation, and renewal. The hibernating animals scattered across our planet right now, from the tiniest bat hanging in a cave to the massive bear curled in her den, represent more than just remarkable biological adaptations. They embody a philosophy of survival that speaks to something deep within us, the wisdom of rest, the power of preparation, and the profound trust required to surrender completely to natural rhythms that are larger than ourselves. In our always-on world, where we're constantly connected and perpetually productive, there's something almost revolutionary about the hibernating animal's approach to life. These creatures remind us that sometimes the most powerful action is inaction, that sometimes the greatest achievement is the ability to be completely still, and that sometimes survival depends not on fighting through difficulty, but on having the courage to wait it out. The science we've explored tonight reveals that hibernation isn't simply about enduring winter, it's about transformation. The animal that emerges from hibernation in spring isn't quite the same creature that entered the den in autumn. Months of cellular repair, metabolic recalibration, and profound rest have created subtle but meaningful changes. They wake renewed, restored, and ready to engage with life in ways that wouldn't have been possible without their period of withdrawal. Perhaps there's a lesson here for our own lives, a gentle suggestion from the natural world about the value of seasonal rhythms and the importance of building rest into our existence. While we may not hibernate in any literal sense, we can learn from the hibernating animals' respect for cycles, their willingness to prepare thoroughly for challenges ahead, and their understanding that sometimes the most productive thing we can do is absolutely nothing at all. The medical applications we've touched upon suggest that hibernation research may one day transform human health and longevity. The possibility of slowing aging, protecting organs during medical procedures, or even enabling long-distance space travel, all flow from our growing understanding of how these remarkable animals manage to pause their lives without ending them. In studying their winter slumber, we may be discovering keys to extending and improving our own existence. But beyond the practical applications lies something more profound, a deeper appreciation for the intricate beauty of biological systems and the elegant solutions that evolution has crafted over millions of years. Each hibernating species represents a unique experiment in survival, a different approach to the fundamental challenge of enduring harsh conditions while maintaining the spark of life. The ecological connections we've explored remind us that no creature hibernates in isolation. The sleeping bear, the dormant ground squirrel, the torpid bat each is woven into vast networks of relationships that span continents and connect seasons. Their presence shapes ecosystems, their absence creates opportunities for others, and their eventual return signals renewal for entire communities of life. As winter continues its reign over much of our planet, countless animals are demonstrating this ancient art of patience, tucked away in dens and burrows, caves and hollow trees. They're not just waiting for spring, they're actively participating in one of nature's most sophisticated survival strategies, their bodies performing miraculous feats of biological engineering while they rest in perfect stillness. There's something deeply comforting about knowing that this quiet miracle is happening all around us, that beneath the frozen ground and behind the sealed den entrances, life continues in its most essential form. These animals have found a way to make winter not their enemy but their ally, transforming the season of scarcity into a time of restoration and renewal. Tonight, as you settle into your own rest, perhaps you can carry with you some of the profound peace of the hibernating world. The patience of the sleeping bear, the trust of the dormant ground squirrel, the quiet confidence of creatures who know that winter always gives way to spring, and that sometimes the best response to life's challenges is to rest deeply and wait for better days. So if you enjoyed this gentle exploration of winter slumber, I'd be ever so grateful if you gave the video a like and tap that subscribe button. It helps more fellow travelers find their way to these quiet corners of science, and it means I can continue creating these soft journeys through the wonders of our natural world. Before you drift off to your own well-deserved rest, I'd love to hear from you one more time. Where in the world are you listening from tonight? Are you curled up in a snowy cabin in the mountains, perhaps thinking of the bears sleeping peacefully in dens nearby? Or maybe you're listening from somewhere warm, imagining what it might feel like to slow down so completely that months pass like moments. The comments section below is like our own little hibernation den, a quiet space where this community gathers to share thoughts and wonder together about the remarkable world around us. Whether you're a night owl fighting sleep or someone who's found the perfect drowsy moment, your presence here adds to the gentle magic of what we've discovered together. And if this video happened to be too interesting and kept you awake longer than intended, well, at least you're drifting off with your mind full of extraordinary science and the comforting knowledge that somewhere, right now, a bear is dreaming peacefully through winter, trusting completely in the ancient wisdom of seasonal rest. As you close your eyes tonight, remember that you're part of the same natural world that has perfected the art of hibernation. While you may not sleep for months at a time, your own rest is just as important, just as restorative, and just as connected to the rhythms that have guided life on Earth for millions of years. Sweet dreams, fellow scientists, and may your sleep be as deep and peaceful as a ground squirrel in its burrow, as restorative as a bear in its den, and as gentle as the quiet breathing of winter itself. Until our next sleepy exploration together, rest well.